happening, everybody? Welcome to another episode of Facemask Fantasy. We are 1 week, 7 days out from the start of the NFL season. So we got another mock draft going on today. I was going to kick this off on Tuesday. Unfortunately, I got hit with a bit of a bug that lasted for 24-ish plus hours. So unfortunately, it pushed my stream on Tuesday. Initially, I was going to try to give it a go on Wednesday. Still a little under the weather yesterday. So unfortunately, only able to pop on this stream today, this week. But this will be the final week where you just get me to the typical 2 days a week cadence. We're moving to 4 days starting next week because that is when the NFL season kicks off. Tuesday live streams, Thursday live streams, Saturday and Sunday live streams for the course of the NFL season. When I'm not on vacation, that is. But 4 days a week, regular cadence, waiver wire discussion and AMA. AMA for every one of my live streams. Most of you know that. If you've been around the block, you know that. If you are finding me for the first time this season, welcome. You will find that I entertain and encourage AMA on all of my live streams, regardless of what the topic of conversation is. But Tuesdays in season live streams will be primarily about waivers plus general AMA, and of course, the fallout from the previous week. Thursdays will be a Thursday night preview. It'll be the first look into start-sit questions for a true day of the week. Start-sit questions, specifically the ones that pertain to the Thursday night football games. And then Saturday and Sunday is straight-up start-sit help. In the afternoons on Saturdays, in the mornings on Sundays, getting you ready up to kickoff to set your most ideal lineup that you have built for yourself. We move through the season. So I will have a mock draft today, like I mentioned. So anybody's free to join with a valid sleeper ID. I see Crumbly it's already in there. Thanks for joining in. So I'll give it some time. I will talk about the news and notes. Obviously, a massive trade just went down in the NFL. It is it's somewhat fantasy relevant because it involves a star player who happens to be on defense. So I can talk a little bit about the Parsons trade if everybody wants. Obviously, there are other fantasy-related topics to get to. And again, missed a couple of days from earlier this week. So got a little bit of catching up to do. I am happy to talk shop on some of the transactions that have taken place since Tuesday, which was a touchdown day in the NFL when rosters are getting whittled down to the final 53. So if there's any significant fallout from any pickups, in all likelihood, no, especially not in shallow leagues. But some injury updates to talk about, some transactions to talk about and what I think they mean. And then, of course, any questions that you guys may have up to and during the mock draft. So with the season next week, I am going to continue to give you guys my spiel. If you've been around the block, you already know it. If you are new to the streams, new to the channel, first of all, welcome. Hopefully you find this channel helpful, informative. I am not flashy in the slightest, but what I do try to, where I lack in flash, I hope to make up with substance. I will give your questions and comments the attentiveness that you are in all likelihood looking for and maybe don't get from some of the larger channels. That being said, I do offer memberships on this channel. Greg, for example, is one of them. What's going on, Greg? Where you can get special perks, one of them being during the season, you'll get your questions and comments responded to in priority order, outside of the turn of the general public, any other general questions. Your questions will come first, regardless of when in the order of questions received that they are when they are received, you will get a priority response. That is one of the perks that you get for being a member of the channel. You can find more details in the first link in the description of this live stream and all of the videos and live streams on this channel. That may come in handy during my start-sit live streams when there's a good amount of people in here asking questions, and you're looking to quickly get yours on. One of the higher level perks, obviously with a week out, it might be a little too difficult to pull together at this point, but highest level membership looking to get to play a fantasy together that I would take care of for would be for your buy-in to the league to be your channel. I'm not going to harp on that. Details in the description of this live stream. So I will start with Greg's question, and then I can get to the general news and notes. Obviously, a massive trade went down. Micah Parsons getting traded from the Dallas Cowboys to the Green Bay Packers. The compensation that I saw is 2 first-round picks and Kenny Clark going from Green Bay to Dallas. Dallas acquires 2 first-round picks, one in 2026. I'm not sure if the second one is in 2027 or 2028. In all likelihood, 2027 first-round pick, and Kenny Clark going back to the Cowboys for Micah Parsons. Trying to think what makes the, where does this leave both of these? Where does it leave both of these, like these defenses? Let me turn the music down. I was just looking for a fun vibe. All right, hopefully it's not too bad now. But the Micah trade, I mean, it makes the Cowboys defense undraftable, unplayable, uninteresting. I mean, they have Trayvon Diggs. They've overshown. Now they have Kenny Clark. They have a couple of pieces. They don't have the difference maker, though, that Micah Parsons is. They don't have the double-digit sacks anymore, the consistent pressure that he brings on a play-by-play basis. They don't have that anymore, do the Cowboys. They're not anybody that I'm interested in drafting, especially not. I mean, remember, you can draft a good defense, or on paper they're a good defense. If they don't have a good week 1 matchup, do you really want to play that defense? I wasn't really wanting to play the Dallas Cowboys. Let's say that Parsons got his contract extension from Dallas, and he ramps up, and between the rest of this week leading up to the game, he gets himself ready. He's good to go. He gets his full complement of snaps. This is the best case scenario, obviously, for Dallas, which didn't transpire. But even in the event that it did, I wouldn't want to play the Cowboys on the road against the defending Super Bowl champs, at least not week 1, not in the first game. So I didn't want to draft Dallas with Micah Parsons. At best, they are a week 2 pickup after they play Philadelphia. Now they're completely off the radar. That's all I have to say about the Cowboys defense. From the perspective of the Packers defense, they were quite good last year, and now they add one of the best defensive players in the league. I believe they were 3rd or 4th in scoring last year, were the Packers, which is it's a good metric. I'm just seeing if I can pull up the specific number. But Green Bay had a good defense last year. Maybe it didn't feel like it at times because, Jordan Love got injured, and, their offense kind of sputtered out a little bit, and they kind of lost a little bit of luster that they had carried over from the 2023 postseason because they weren't as good top to bottom. But they were actually pretty good. They were a pretty good unit. I believe they were a top 3 defense in scoring against. Now they add Micah Parsons. I mean, it's probably going to take a little bit of time for Parsons to ramp up, and they do have to play the Detroit Lions week 1. But you're going to have to go out of your way to draft the Packers defense if you actually want them. And I'm not sure that I want to play them in a week 1 matchup against Detroit and all of their offensive firepower. So it's obviously, if you're interested in the Packers defense for fantasy, you're playing the long game. You're expecting that regardless of the opponent most weeks, this is a defense that has the personnel that is strong enough to more often than not feel comfortable firing them up as your fantasy defense. I don't love the week 1 draw against Detroit. And then I believe the Packers are the first Thursday night game of the season, and that might be a road game for them. No, it's a home game. It's a home game for the Packers. So I actually quite like that a little bit better. If it was on the road, I wouldn't love that as much. Although it is against Washington and Jaden Daniels. So, those first 2 games don't jump out at me as obvious, like, oh, I really, really want to play the Packers defense. Obviously, Micah Parsons can change that trajectory single-handedly and make the Packers go from a good defense to a great defense. Those first 2 matchups right out of the gate, when Parsons is maybe not fully in game shape, right? He's been holding in over the course of this offseason. He hasn't been practicing. You don't worry about that type of stuff as much when you're talking about superstars, top players in the league at their position type players. That's what Parsons is. You don't worry about that type of stuff as much, but conditioning and getting his full allotment of snaps that you would normally expect from a superstar edge rusher may not happen right away. So I don't know that the Packers are like a thrilling defense to start the season with, having to go up against Detroit week 1 and Washington week 2. You get a juicy one against the Browns week 3, but then week 4 against the Cowboys. That is it's officially revenge tour season for Micah Parsons. But for all of the issues the Cowboys have, scoring points might not be one of them. Dak throwing the ball to CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, and it's a home game for Dallas. And then they get the Bengals. Green Bay does the next week. That could be a plus matchup against their offensive line, but it's still an elite quarterback in Joe Burrow, elite weapons in Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Chase Brown that can score a lot of points. So I would say I don't know that I would move the Packers up in my defensive rankings that much, at least because the early portion of their schedule, they've got some pretty good offenses on their slate. Detroit, Washington, Cleveland week 3, not scary. I would confidently fire up the Packers defense in that situation. But Packers on the road, high octane potential offense, throwing the ball with Dak, CD, Pickens, Ferguson. And then the Bengals, high octane offense potentially with Burrow, Chase Higgins, Chase Brown. I say potentially, they should be high octane. Their offensive line isn't great, but these are good offenses with good weapons that the Packers have to start off with on their schedule. They get the Cardinals after the Bengals. That's a little more appealing, but the Cardinals aren't slouches on offense, and that is a home game for Arizona. And then Green Bay's on the road against the Steelers, against their old friend Aaron Rodgers. It's not the easiest slate of games for Green Bay. I don't know that I would rank them too much higher as far as my defensive rankings, given the start of the season that they have to deal with. Obviously, Parsons is a game wrecker and a game changer. You can confidently, I would say you could put the Packers neutral any given week now, probably a top 5 option, but there is a little bit of downside with as far as points scored against them. With that opening slate of games. So the Cowboys defense is completely off the fantasy radar. The Packers defense is very much on the fantasy radar. They should be able to rack up a lot of pressures, which result in sacks. Sacks lead to turnovers. But they are facing some good offenses to open the season. So I would just caution that. I wouldn't go head first in the deep end to draft the Packers defense. If they are there for you at the 13th, 14th round and you want to take a shot and you're not overly aggressive with drafting a defense, sure, fine, you can take the chance. Just know they might not be the most appealing because of that start of the schedule. Okay, so those are my thoughts on the Micah Parsons trade and the ripple effects as it pertains to both defenses in fantasy. A couple other transactions that took place over the last couple of days. The Detroit Lions traded Tim Patrick to the Jacksonville Jaguars for a 6th-round pick. I believe that was in 2026. Full speed ahead for Isaac Tesla. He was there. Where was he selected in this draft? Third, 70th overall, 3rd-round pick. I mean, yeah, the Lions went out of their way to free up space in their wide receiver room, I think solely to move Tesla up the depth chart. So that's noteworthy. Great selection in best ball. Maybe not necessarily a guy that's quite on the radar yet for 10 and 12 team leagues, but 10 and 12 team redraft leagues. But I mean, if anything happens to Amon-Ra or JMO, I mean, Tesla figures to step into a prominent role. So a guy worth keeping on the keeping on the radar, put a pin in his name. I don't know that we're drafting him just yet in 10 and 12 team leagues. The Vikings have reacquired Adam Thielen from the Carolina Panthers. The Vikings get Thielen, a conditional 2026 7th-round pick, and a 2027 5th-round pick. The Panthers get a 5th-round pick in 2026 and a 4th-round pick in 2027. Thielen returns to Minnesota, where he spent most of his career up until the last couple of seasons. And the Vikings needed this. They needed this for J.J. McCarthy. They needed this for themselves in general. Thielen gives them a vet presence who's probably very comfortable in Minnesota. I mean, he spent his whole career. He's basically spent his whole life there. It's where he's from. But Justin Jefferson is nursing a hamstring injury. We're not 100. We think it's minor. We don't know 100% know just how severe that hamstring injury is. Jefferson has not practiced much recently, but he did return to practice. After missing a few weeks earlier in the offseason. He should be fine for week 1, but soft tissue injuries can be tricky, and it wouldn't be the first time that Jefferson in his career is dealing with soft tissue injuries. Obviously, Jordan Addison is also suspended for the first 3 games of the season, so the Vikings need some help in the wide receiver department, clearly, given both of those situations. So they get Thielen, they get him back. He'll be a savvy veteran presence for their young quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, along with T.J. Hawkinson. He figures to slot in as the team's wide receiver 3 ahead of Jalen Naylor, who was having a nice season or a nice preseason. But when everybody's healthy and good to go, he's going to move down the depth chart. I guess he's got a little bit more appeal given the fact that Jefferson and Addison are both dealing with stuff. Jefferson dealing with a soft tissue injury, Addison dealing with a 3-game suspension. And it's good news on the other side for the Panthers. It's great news for Jalen Coker. Thielen was the slot receiver for Carolina. Now Jalen Coker gets the opportunity to be the slot receiver for Carolina. The general manager said as much. So Coker seemingly just got a huge opportunity put in front of him with the departure of Thielen to operate in 3 wide receiver sets alongside Ted McMillan and Xavier Legette for the Panthers. This is a great opportunity for Coker in an ascending offense, an intriguing offense with Bryce Young and the corner he turned at the end of last season, presumably. Dave Canales, we still believe in the coaching staff from a play calling perspective. This is an interesting offense in Carolina, an interesting young offense, and Coker now pretty much gets something of a promotion, right? He was going to be the backup slot receiver. Now he's the primary slot receiver. Again, similar to Isaac Tesla of the Detroit Lions. Jalen Coker now on maybe the waiver wire radar in 10 and 12 team leagues. Maybe not a guy that you can draft just yet in shallower leagues, but absolutely a name to keep in mind, keep an eye on as the season unfolds and we get to see just how effective the Panthers offense is. So a couple of young receivers getting new opportunities. Thielen was getting drafted in 12-team leagues, maybe some 10-team leagues, but not as many. You can a little bit more confidently take a dart throw on him now, at least for the first couple of weeks of the season, because Jordan Addison's not going to play. So you can you can grab Adam Thielen and stash him for a couple of weeks at the end of your draft and see how he does through week 3. If he's playing well, hang on to him. If he's not, and Addison comes back, he'll be an easy drop. Rashee Rice. I have not talked about Rashee Rice yet. I know that just happened a couple of days ago, but I can discuss it here really quickly. He will, in fact, serve a 6-game suspension to start the season. This is different from what we were originally anticipating, what was originally being reported and speculated, that Rice would play the first 4 weeks of the season before a disciplinary hearing that was set to take place on September 30th. Instead of that sequence of events, which would have potentially led to a larger suspension, a longer suspension that lasted multiple weeks, now Rice will just take the 6 games up front. He will serve weeks 1 through 6. He will not play. He will be eligible to return to the Chiefs lineup week 7, and his ADP will probably plummet into the 8th or 9th round. I would imagine anyway. This is where I am now actually willing to take the shot on Rashee Rice. Now I'm willing to draft him in redraft leagues because we get the early portion of the season out of the way when his ADP is at its lowest point, and we get him back confidently and comfortably for the stretch run and the fantasy playoffs. I will take a guy with the talent of Rashee Rice in the 8th or 9th round if I know for sure, well, I can stash him. I'll make sure I get good wide receivers to cover myself for the first 2 months of the season, and by the time Rashee Rice is back, I'll have given myself enough of wiggle room to work with where, he immediately becomes a focal point, a fixture in my starting lineup when he's ready to return. And now I'm that much better while still in contention. Rice is a great 8th or 9th round pick if he can last that long. 6th or 7th round pick is a little hairy. It's a little dicey. That's that gray area of, it depends on how much you trust and believe in Rice versus how much you trust and believe some of the options around that area. So it depends on who's available. If you're thinking about drafting Rashee Rice, if you have him on your radar, but you're not sure where you would make the cutoff line, if you're not sure where you would, at what point is it soon enough or late enough to take Rashee Rice? We can talk about that. The footballers discussed it a couple of nights ago, I believe. The area that I think the consensus was comfortable taking Rice was around the Khalil Shakir range. So maybe that 7th, 8th round range. That's when I'd be willing to take Rice. And then from there, it just depends. Depends on your personal preference. Who would you rather have? A guy who's going to play and start week 1 and be a solid wide receiver 3 with wide receiver 2 upside, or a guy who, you're going to have to wait for 6 weeks, but when he returns, he's got wide receiver 2 upside with potential for wide receiver 1 spike weeks here and there. It depends on personal preference. But I would have had Rice firmly off my board had it been the original timeline where he plays the first 4 weeks of the season and then gets suspended. In that scenario, if that scenario had been the case, I don't want Rashee Rice. Now that we know that it's a flat 6-game suspension that he is serving and he will be back week 7, now I'm willing to take him in the 7th or 8th round, 8th or 9th round. Cade Otton will miss a little bit of time dealing with a leg injury. Emeka Egbuka's hype couldn't go any higher. Now they're dealing, Tampa is with yet another injury, although it's noteworthy. Wide receiver Chris Godwin, left tackle Tristan Wirfs are on the 53-man roster. They avoided the PUP list. That is good news. Maybe not for week 1, but for the short and long-term prospects of the Bucs offense, those guys could be slated to return sooner than later. I believe Godwin's timeline is still October, but nevertheless, he avoided the PUP list, so that is a good sign. Frank Gore Jr. to the Bills practice squad, Jeff Wilson to the Dolphins practice squad, Kamani Vidal to the Chargers practice squad, Damian Martinez to the Seahawks practice squad. Some super deep dart throw options in deeper leagues at running back. Just looking over it. The Packers are hopeful Jayden Reed returns next week. You can draft Jayden Reed. I just would prefer to do it after his ADP and not before it. Najee Harris will practice this week, and playing week 1 is a possibility. This is yesterday's update. We still don't know what the status is of Najee Harris. We still don't know how severe the eye injury is. I think you're fine to draft him, especially if you end up with Amari and Hampton earlier in the draft and you just secure the Chargers' backfield. But there are still some questions that I have about Najee Harris and the likelihood that he is fully healthy and fully ready to play week 1. This has been a weird saga for Najee Harris this year. Khalil Shakir participated in practice Wednesday. He was dealing with a high ankle sprain earlier this year. Not an ideal injury to be dealing with, but at least he is returning to practice with about 10 days prior to the Bills' first game. That is good news. Travis Hunter is healthy. He missed, I think, the last 2 preseason games with an upper body injury. Good old hockey injury update there from the Jags and Travis Hunter, but he will play week 1. That's all we know, though. How much will he play on offense? How much will we play on defense? Nobody knows. But the fun thing is, if you draft Travis Hunter, you probably are drafting him high enough where if you start 3 wide receivers, you may need to start him. If you have 3 wide receivers in a flex, Travis Hunter is probably in your lineup based on where you're drafting him. So it's fun and it's exciting, but there's a huge range of outcomes how that could go. From a fantasy perspective, at least from a week-to-week basis. Jawan Jennings is working through his calf issue and making progress. The team also is, I guess, in the midst of a contract negotiation extension with Jawan Jennings. I have been a big fader of Jawan Jennings this offseason. I have not been targeting him. I don't think I have any shares of Jawan Jennings. I made a video earlier this offseason why I am fading Jawan Jennings. I am not super bullish on him this year. You can check out that video on the channel if you are interested to hear why. But all of this missed practice time plus the distraction that comes with a contract extension further cements my belief in that what my call was the correct one. You never know how this stuff plays out and what it'll ultimately mean for on-field production. But I am more than happy to pass on Jawan Jennings at an even below cost. I will be avoiding him in general for the remainder of this offseason. Again, back to Jaden Reed. He is not running routes pain-free. So that's not great. The first question that I have there is what is the risk of re-injury with Jaden Reed if he is not pain-free running routes 10 days before the first game of the season? So that's a little dicey. I'm not saying take Jaden Reed off your draft boards, but I am saying to proceed with caution. If a league mate wants to draft him above ADP, let them. If Jaden Reed falls a little bit past ADP and you want to take the shot, fine. I'm not endorsing him strongly one way or another. I do think Jaden Reed is a talented player. The fact that he is not running routes pain-free right now is like, okay, that could be nothing by week 3 or 4, or it could be an injury that lingers. We don't know. So proceed with caution. Proceed with caution with Jaden Reed. Jalen Wright underwent surgery, could return at some point in September. Wheels up on Ollie Gordon, man. And by the way, Devon Achane has been cleared for week 1. It doesn't sound like he's dealing with anything serious after there was a potential concern a couple of weeks ago that Achane might be dealing with a calf strain that could put his week 1 availability in doubt. Those concerns seem to be squashed earlier this week. It sounds like Achane is tracking to play week 1 with no limitations. We feel good about that. However, Jalen Wright is going to miss at least a few games to start the season. Ollie Gordon is primed to get RB2 opportunities in this offense because on top of Jalen Wright missing time, Alexander Mattison is already out for the season with a neck injury. Hopefully all is well with Madison, but he's not going to play this year. Ollie Gordon, for anybody who follows college or plays Dynasty, if you recall, Ollie Gordon after his 2023 season was shaping up to be a highly touted prospect in this year's draft heading into the 2024 season. Things didn't quite work out as expected. The production wasn't quite there, but he's looked pretty good in his preseason action, his preseason opportunities, and now he is the straight-up backup handcuffed to Devon Achane for at least the first month of the year until Jalen Wright comes back. If you draft Devon Achane, you should have no issue in 10 and 12 team leagues stashing Ollie Gordon as the last pick in your draft. And I would highly suggest that you go out of your way to do that to secure and protect your investment. If you draft Devon Achane, you can do so with confidence. He will be back week 1 without any issues. But the backup situation behind him is crystal clear, and I think that is a perfect opportunity to pounce and draft Ollie Gordon with your last pick. In a 10 or 12 team redraft league, you should not have any problems making that happen. Ollie Gordon, clear-cut running back 2 behind Devon Achane. Let's see. Hunter Renfrow was released. That was a bit of a disappointment. It would have been a fun comeback story. Maybe he latches on somewhere else. Darnell Mooney was on the practice field today. That was a good sign. Marvin Mims was not participating in practice today. He left practice early yesterday with what was called like a minor groin injury. Sounds like he will return to practice on Monday. No concerns there as far as Marvin Mims and the injury that he picked up. And then, of course, there was the Micah Parsons trade. I already discussed that at length closer to the top of the show. If you would like to hear my thoughts on that, you can just simply rewind. Okay. I see a couple questions in the chat, so I will take those now. Still plenty of opportunity and time for anybody who you would, if you would like, you can join the mock draft. Right now, there's only 2. Myself and Crumbly Heads are in there right now. Feel free to join. If we get a couple other folks in, I'm happy to kick that thing off. I assume that there are quite a few drafts taking place this weekend, probably the last major run of drafts before the real thing starts next week. There's probably some drafts that bleed into next, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. Folks who are waiting until the very last moment to have their drafts, I respect that. That's totally fine. You are getting as many practices out of the way as you possibly can before you absolutely have to make a decision, and you have as much information that is possibly available to you going into opening night between the Eagles and the Cowboys. So probably lots of drafts going on this weekend. Feel free to join the mock if it's helpful to you. I will kick it off shortly. I'm going to start answering some questions in the chat, and then I will kick off the draft. Anybody is free to join with a valid sleeper ID. The invite to the mock draft is starred and pinned, whatever you want to call it, at the top of the chat. Again, with a valid sleeper ID, feel free to join. While that potentially takes place, I can respond to a couple of comments in the chat. Yeah, I mean, in a shallow redraft league, and I'm happy that you found my draft strategy video helpful. In full PPR, you always when you're between a wide receiver and a running back, if you like them both, all things equal, it comes down to scoring and roster makeup, starting lineup makeup. Do I start 2 wide receivers? Okay, I don't have to fill wide receiver is generally a little easier to fill than running back. So even in full PPR, if I only start 2 wide receivers, I might opt for the running back. I might lead running back. If I start 3 wide receivers and it's full PPR, then I'm hammering wide receiver for as many rounds as I possibly can that conceivably makes sense. So, trust your own plan. Obviously, you're in tune and familiar with your league's scoring, especially if this league has been around for some time. Pick up on tendencies of your league mates. You know your league mates better than I do. You know what they're more than likely going to do based on their tendencies and history. I have all my league mates in my major leagues. I've been playing in these leagues with them for years. I know their tendencies. I've picked up on it. I know what certain guys like to do at certain spots because I've watched them do it for the past 10 years throughout the draft. So if you know this guy values running backs above all else, he'll take a RB3 before he'll take a wide receiver 2. I know that's how he operates. Then prioritize running back if you are drafting near that person in your draft. If you only have to start 2 wide receivers, even in full PPR, if there's a wide receiver there that you like and a running back there that you like, take the running back. Look down the board. See where there are guys. See which guys are available to you or you expect to be available to you at your next pick. It'll help mold your plan because then it's like, okay, if I know that these guys are going to be available later, that helps me figure out who I'm going to take now. And that way I can get, it's almost like a trade, right? Looking down the board is almost like doing a trade with yourself. Would I rather have this wide receiver in round 3 and this running back in round 4? Or would I rather have this running back in round 3 and this wide receiver in round 4? Do the trade. Like put that trade, assuming you have enough time on your pick timer to like write it down or type it in. Do the trade. Like look down the board. Okay, I'm picking in 8 spots or I'm picking in 10 spots. Here's the list of names of guys that I like in that range. Here's the list of guys that I have available to me now at my current pick. Would I rather have this guy and this guy or that guy and that guy? Do the hypothetical trade. It's the one time where you can sort of theoretically make trades with yourself and look at it right there on paper and say, this is what I prefer. I'm going to take this guy here and I'm going to take that guy later. And even if that guy isn't available because he gets picked, there's another guy of the same position that I would also be happy ending up with. Therefore, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this guy, player A in round 3, player B in round 4. Even if player B isn't available, I also like player C at the same position, so I'm going to stick to my plan. Yeah. So do what makes sense. Do what makes the most sense as far as your scoring, your starting lineup makeup, and who you think is going to be available to you to 1 pick from now, 2 picks from now. Don't go too far ahead because that's that you don't need to worry about. I don't need to worry about who's going to be in round 8 when I'm on the clock in round 3. I'll deal with that in round 6 or 7. Look down the board, a pick or two, a spot or two, and go from there. Work backwards. That's what I always like to tell people. Work backwards when you can. And yes, a draft that starts Lamar, CD, and Achane, yeah, that's quite good. I guess the question is, was Lamar a round 3 pick or was he like a round 1 pick because it's super flex? It's a good start. It's a very good start. You're talking about a guy with QB 1 overall upside, wide receiver 1 overall upside, and I think Achane has top 5 running back upside. I think he's got top 3 overall upside just because of how explosive he is, even though Miami's offense isn't that good. Well, their offensive line isn't that good. The skill position pieces are there. Can the offensive line hold up? But Achane is good enough to finish top 3 at the position. Underdog has updated the slow draft pick timer to 1 hour. So anybody who is playing best ball, if you were in slow drafts, you now only have 1 hour to make your pick before you auto. I don't really want to auto any picks, but I also don't know who I want to take here. I will start the mock draft here shortly. I'll take a random tight end. Sure. Okay. We only have 2. We have myself and Crumply Heads in the mock draft now. I suppose last week was maybe a super busy time for people to do drafts, but I imagine there are still folks who are doing drafts this weekend. So I thought that this might be a helpful exercise. So I can certainly kick things off. But I did want to give folks an opportunity to potentially join in the event that your draft has not taken place yet, and you want to get a practice swing in, a practice round in. All right. I guess I can kick things off. I'll be honest. If I get more, if there's any more interest that jumps in late, I can always kick off another one. I can always start another mock for anybody who misses the start of this one. So I'll kick this off. I will talk about my strategy as it unfolds real time because because it's just myself and Crumply Heads. I will make the pick timer 2 minutes, so I have a little bit more time to talk when I am up on the clock and when Crumply Heads is up on the clock. But the computers will still immediately draft and will immediately auto draft. So it's not like this is going to run super long. All right, let's kick this thing off. Just two humans in this mock draft. If there is interest later, if folks join late and are looking for an opportunity to do a mock, I could kick off a second one. But for now, kick this one off. I don't know if we have Crumply Heads. I'm not sure if he is with us for this mock. And again, I did just start this thing. So for anybody who joins late and was potentially interested in joining, I'm absolutely happy to start another one. This probably won't take very long with just two humans in here. And if Crumply Heads is here, spectacular. If he's not, he'll eventually, he'll auto eventually, and then it'll keep moving. So for this league, or for this mock draft, start 3 wide receivers, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers, tight end, flex, kicker, defense, half PPR scoring. So pretty standard, nothing flashy, nothing spectacular. Always try to keep these as kind of generic as possible for the best common denominator. Obviously, different leagues have different scoring. Some leagues have unique scoring settings. So those might be things that'll never get accounted for in a traditional mock draft. So obviously you can kind of try to extrapolate whatever the scoring is, take from the mock draft that you see and apply it to your own league scoring if they are so different, so unique from the mocks, and just go from there. Hopefully, regardless, the idea here, the plan is to help you kind of mold your plan of attack. Should you drop Mims for is this Dynasty? I'd rather not drop Mims. I want Dante Thornton on my roster, but I don't want to drop Mims. If this is Dynasty and your rosters are deep, I would hope that there is somebody else there that you could cut to add Thornton. If there isn't, can you try to trade Mims? You're not going to get more than a 3rd round pick for him. What am I doing here? I know exactly what I am doing here. It is the guy that I have heavily warmed up to. I am very willing to take swings. I am very willing to take chances. I am very willing to strike out in an attempt to hit a home run. Yes, this format is start 3 wide receivers, and just to, follow, if I'm going to talk about it, then I got to be about it. So there's 8 picks between my next pick. So that puts me in this range of Jonathan Taylor, A.J. Brown, Brian Thomas, Bowers. There's a couple other interesting running backs here. Ladd McConkey, Chase Brown. So there is a collection of different options available to me. I think there will be a good wide receiver available. Therefore, I am going to swing for the fences. Even in a league that starts 3 wide receivers, it's just half PPR scoring. So I do still think there's an advantage to getting a solid running back here. And I think this is as good a shot as any to take a chance on Christian McCaffrey, who is maybe the greatest fantasy asset at the running back position year over year since LaDainian Tomlinson 10, 15 years ago. I will take McCaffrey. I will hope that there is a solid wide receiver available to me on the swing. I think there will be, just based on ADP. But above all else, this is the spot at 7, 8, 9 range where I am more than comfortable swinging for the fences, trying to hit a home run, and taking the 2023 RB1 overall, who is fully healthy, I will take the cap. As long as it doesn't freeze, I'm going to queue him just in case it doesn't take.
Oh, come on, dude.
Don't auto. I don't want to auto. Well, this is not going to happen in real life, but Malik Neighbors fell to me at the at the 205. I mean, maybe it would. Again, I don't want to assume that it won't, because in redraft formats, obviously running backs always get prioritized, and we just saw that. Jacobs, Achane, and Taylor all at the top of the second round, pushing a consensus first-round pick down the board a little bit, closer to the middle of the second round. I'm not going to spend too much time on this. Neighbors does have that nagging toe injury that is a little bit of a concern. Now he's also got like a back issue. He's got a couple of injuries that he's dealing with, and it does make him a little nerve-wracking. However, these are all being classified as minor issues, and all I can do is believe the reports right now because I know that he returned to practice last week. Malik Neighbors is a baller, a game changer, and a big-time fantasy asset. He should get better quarterback play this year than he did last year, and he balled out last year with bad quarterback play. So even a marginal upgrade, in theory, should make him even better. As long as he is out there, he has top 5 upside any given week. I will go ahead and just take Neighbors. What's up, Fortune? Good to see you. Thanks for popping in. Fortune is another one of my members. Again, for anybody just joining, if you didn't hear my spiel earlier, maybe you have if you've been around the block before, but if you are new to my channel, welcome. Hopefully you find over the course of the season, hopefully you stick around, hang out, and find this channel helpful. But Fortune is one of my dedicated members, and whenever Fortune asks a question or a comment, or if Greg asks a question or a comment, because they are registered members of the channel, they will get their questions and comments responded to in priority order ahead of everybody else. That is a perk of being one of the perks of being a member of the channel. Again, if you are interested in memberships with my channel, you can find that information in the first link in the description of this live stream. Okay. ADP continues to not update for Sleeper. So I am going to, this is a situation where I don't even feel the need to look down the board. I will all the same just to check the names that are down here. But at this point, at this range of the off season, for me to be able to get Amari and Hampton at the back of the third round, or the back, like middle back half of the third round, I will take that every single time. I would take him over James Cook. I would take him over Jackson Smith and Jigba. I would probably take him in one quarterback leagues over Lamar Jackson. I would probably take him over Tyreek Hill. Yes, Najee Harris has returned to practice. I don't know what that necessarily means for Najee's long-term prospects or Hampton's long-term prospects. But what I do know is that for the entire offseason, Amari and Hampton received valuable reps and opportunities with the first team offense for the duration of camp. And the guy who was projected to be the team's RB2 in the interim until Najee Harris got healthy was Kamani Vidal. They released him and then re-signed him to the practice squad. I guess that's a vote of confidence for Najee, but also I think they're comfortable moving forward with Hampton and then whatever Najee can give them, at least for now, until he gets, warmed up and he gets his feet wet after missing pretty much all of the offseason, recovering from the eye injury. Hampton figures to be RB1 game one. Hopefully he holds on to that all offseason or all long. I'm willing to take the shot here at this point. I would take Hampton in the top of the third round if I had a pick there and he was available. Okay, a couple quarterbacks go off the board after me, followed by Kamara, Brees, Marvin Harrison to the top of the fourth round, Mike Evans to the top of the fourth round. I think that's pretty good value for Evans. It's good value for Kittle, top of the fourth round, and then Devontae Adams, solid value there as well. So I don't pick for a while after I make this pick. And here's the names that I'm looking at. Xavier Worthy, Zay Flowers, Tech McMillan, Jamison Williams, George Pickens. I quite like these wide receiver options. The running back depth is going to start to fall off here. It's really enticing that the idea of grabbing a guy like Garrett Wilson. Oh, yeah, wide receiver 1 target share. He's going to get 1 million targets because the Jets don't have a wide receiver 2. That might be true. But the running back depth is, we're reaching the point of no return. This is generally the point of no return in your draft when it comes to the running back depth. Or the running back depth. The 4th round, that's when it's like, okay, it's either now or never, and then you're in the dead zone for 3-4 rounds. So, because I like the running back depth, or excuse me, the wide receiver depth closer to my next pick, Kenneth Walker makes me nervous. But I know when he is healthy, he is the Seahawks RB1. I will swing for the upside. I will swing for the fences. I will not be a hypocrite when it comes to Kenneth Walker versus somebody like Chris. I can't get excited about Christian McCaffrey and then be concerned about Kenneth Walker. That's being a hypocrite. Now, yes, I'm playing with a little bit of fire, getting so many guys with a little bit of an injury history. But if all works out, if all of these guys stay healthy, I will have a team where I swung for the fences, I swung for upside, and now I've got 2 RB1s and a strong RB2 anchoring my lineup each week. I'll take the shot on the upside. Hell, I'll grab Najee Harris and I'll grab Zach Charbonnet like later in the draft. Back to this question about Mims for Thornton. So it is a redraft league. No, I don't. I mean, Thornton is a very interesting dart throw. He's enticing. I quite like Thornton. And obviously he does get a little bit of a boost in theory if Jacoby Myers does get traded. He requested a trade from the Raiders a couple of days ago after it came out that he was looking for a contract extension or he's looking for a new contract. He maybe doesn't feel like he can get it with Vegas. So he potentially is on the move. We'll see if the Raiders actually honor that request, that trade request, to be determined. I don't want to pick up a rookie for a third-year player who, while he has been frustrating and inconsistent, I know Mims can make big plays because I've seen it happen. We haven't seen Thornton do it yet. We're excited and intrigued about him, but I'm not quite ready to pull the trigger dropping Mims for Thornton or Keenan Allen for Thornton. Oh, hell, it's my turn again. Oh my God, there's another running back here that I really like, and I may just swing for the fences and I'll deal with my wide receiver depth later. Who is available to me? Pollard, Hunter, Waddle, Ridley. Yup. I'm going to put, I don't know that I always condone this, but sometimes certain situations just call for you to act on them. I'm going to draft a dude where now with 4 of my first 5 picks, one of them is guaranteed to not be a starter every week. However, I will have the deepest collection of running backs in the league by taking RJ Harvey here. Again, I'm swinging for the upside. I'm getting another rookie running back, banking on youth, upside, and the ascension to the top of the depth chart being more likely than that of veteran incumbents like J.K. Dobbins. Let me swing for the fences on Harvey. I will have a deep running back room with McCaffrey, Hampton, Walker, Harvey. I am protecting myself from potential injury issues. And now there's a wide receiver available to me in the 6th round who I am quite happy to end up with in Calvin Ridley. This is that part of the draft where you can still hammer wide receiver and end up with starters. I decided, I didn't expect Harvey to be available to me in the 5th round. I very much believe in his upside. I know J.K. Dobbins is there. J.K. Dobbins was added off of his couch back in, I think, July by the Broncos. Yes, I think he will have a role all season long. Yes, I think it's possible that Dobbins is an early season contributor, but I am willing to bank on the rookie getting better each week and having more room to grow and potentially ascend into the top of the depth chart, maybe by midseason, if not sooner. And I will bank on RJ Harvey. I probably won't start him for the first month of the season with this team. That's because Christian McCaffrey, Amari and Hampton, and Kenneth Walker are going to be my 2 running backs, and one of them will be in my flex each week. Harvey will be, that's like let the cake bake type of situation where he can chill on the bench for a couple of weeks. I can see how things play out in Denver. If he rises sooner than later, he'll enter the rotation as far as an option for my team. When bye weeks start coming down the pipe, now I have 4 running backs to protect me against that. And if an injury strikes, I've got the depth to potentially better handle it and deal with it. All the while, the 6th round, the 7th round, the 8th round, I see wide receivers that I am more than happy to end up with. More than happy to end up with. Another question, you could drop Jake Ferguson. I would not drop Jake Ferguson. I would rather you not, you already drafted, so it's okay. I would rather not draft another tight end when I invest in somebody like Trey McBride. Trey McBride is going as early as the late 2nd round and as late as the middle of the 3rd round. He is a priority high investment for your team. Therefore, Jake Ferguson is a little tough to justify drafting because it's hard to get him into your lineup over McBride. You drafted McBride to be your guy. I'm back on the clock. Look at all these wide receivers. Look at all these wide receivers that I'm so happy to end up with. And now I'm at the spot where these are the running backs where I don't want. So this, I feel quite good. This worked out well. Has his ADP corrected yet, or is Sleeper asleep at the wheel? Yeah, Sleeper hasn't course corrected yet. Make sure if this guy's still available in the 7th round, just take him. Just take him. And there are some other names that I took over him that are much higher than consensus, but Igbuka the Igbuka hype is real. The vibes are great. Chris Godwin's going to start the season slow. Cade Otton is now going to miss time with a leg injury. Jalen McMillan is on IR until at least midseason. This team needs Igbuka. He should not still be available in the 7th round. And if he is, pick him. I'm going to keep talking. What's the status on Stephon Diggs? Looks ready for week 1. Q. I'll take a wide receiver 1. I will take a team's clear-cut wide. I think he's clear-cut wide receiver 1. Obviously, Diggs is older at this point in his career, but I don't know that there's a Patriots wide receiver that can challenge him for wide receiver 1 workload, wide receiver 1 targets. I think the best, most explosive playmaker for the Patriots will be Travion Henderson. However, I do expect Diggs to get a wide receiver 1 target share. And it seems like he is making a speedy recovery from the torn ACL that he suffered last year. It sounds like he might be ready week 1. He might not be Stephon Diggs week 1. He may not be himself. But if we believe in Drake May and his ascension, his rise in the ranks in year 2, gets better in a new system, gets better with a better supporting cast around him. The industry, the hype is real with Drake May. The vibes are high. Everybody loves Drake May. Well, if you love Drake May, then you should probably like his wide receiver 1, and that's Stephon Diggs. So I'm happy to end up with a team wide receiver 1 and a team wide receiver 1 target share in the 8th round in the form of a proven vet in Stephon Diggs. This is a bit of an older team that I have, but I do have 3 rookies on it with Hampton, Harvey, and Igbuka, so I think I have a nice balance of youth and experience with this group, and I feel good about it. So I was getting to this. Don't drop Ferguson, even though you have McBride. Ferguson has a nice bump in value now because I think the Cowboys are going to be in a million shootouts this year. With the trade of Micah Parsons, the Cowboys pass-catching guys they're already guys that we want. Let me slide the draft board down so that you guys can see everything that's happening. CeeDee Lamb, George Pickens, Jake Ferguson, all of these guys were already appealing because we expect Dallas to throw the ball a lot. 1, because they have to. 2, because we've seen them be good at it when everybody's healthy. And 3, I don't know that they're going to run the ball that well this year. Their offensive line is not that good. Javonte Williams might be washed. Miles Sanders is probably washed. Jaden Blue is an intriguing rookie, 5th-round guy. We'll see what he can do with his opportunity. This might be a gross backfield this year. They're going to have to throw the football. So I would not drop Jake Ferguson. I would maybe look to trade Jake Ferguson if there's somebody in your league who punted on tight end and doesn't have a spectacular option available to them. You could try to trade Ferguson for a wide receiver or a running back. There goes Sharp. See you later. Thanks for nothing, computer. But that's okay. I think this is a good spot to take my tight end, and I might be taking another rookie. I don't know that I would, again, condone drafting all of these rookies, but I do like the idea of Tyler Warren. I could also take J.K. Dobbins because I have a R.J. Harvey and just protect my investment. But there are some running backs down the board that I still quite like, that I'm still happy about to get if they fall to me. I don't have too many shares of Tyler Warren, so I'm going to take Tyler Warren, and we're going to see what this team looks like and see if I actually like it coming out of this mock. So no, just to wrap up that question and wrap up that thought, I would not drop Ferguson. I would look to move him. I would look to trade him to somebody who needs a tight end because you have McBride. You don't need Ferguson, but Ferguson is valuable. Ferguson's valuable. He is a sneaky tight end pick, and I know it's my pick again. There goes Dobbins and Eckler, but that's okay. Josh Downs returned to practice. Or is it? Yeah, returned to practice today. He's going to be ready for the Colts Week 1 game. I could use a little bit of wide receiver depth because I hit running back really hard through the first part of the draft, 4 with my first 5 picks. Now I will be pivoting off of running back almost entirely, unless it is a handcuff for one of the guys that I currently have. I am going to fill out my wide receiver depth with a guy who I do believe is the team's wide receiver 1. Yes, I just drafted Tyler Warren, so I'm doubling up on a passing attack. That might be unspectacular, but I do think Josh Downs is good, and I am willing to bet on individual talent, so I will do that here. I will do that here. While Crumply Heads makes his pick, I just got a super from Steven. Thank you so much, Steven. Appreciate that. Appreciate the kind gesture. Very kind of you. Really, really appreciate it. You are up next in a slow draft. So let me be clear. I like all of these names. I would especially say I like Ridley, Agbuka, and Pearsall. I like Golden. He's got a lot of upside, but it is a little unknown as of right now. How the Packers wide receiver core shakes out and who ultimately is going to lead the team in targets. Good pick, Crumpy Head. I was going to take Croskey-Merritt if he made it to me. He is not going to last until the 11th round of your draft. This is just a mock draft with a bunch of computers who are following ADP. Make sure Ja'Cory Croskey-Merritt is not still available by the 9th round. And make sure Eckler is available or is not available by the 10th round, especially in half and full PPR. Maybe in the 9th round for Eckler and full PPR. Well, I need a quarterback. And I see the hype machine of 2025 staring me in the face in Drake May. I like Justin Fields. I do. And I think he's good. He's great at fantasy football because of how much he runs. And I don't think he's going to get benched this year because the Jets don't really have anything else to turn to. Tyrod Taylor is not their future as a 36-year-old backup. It is It is Justin Fields' season for the New York Jets, for better or worse. That being said, the arrow is pointing straight up on Drake May, and he has a lot more room, I think, to grow than Justin Fields. And on top of that, just to make it fun, I drafted Stephon Diggs. I drafted his wide receiver 1, who would, in this format, in this league, potentially start for me here and there due to injuries and or bye week fill-ins. So let's go ahead and grab Drake May. And again, this is that part of the draft where even in one quarterback leagues, I waited a long time to draft a QB1. I am okay with drafting a QB2. In fact, I just got done talking about Justin Fields. I'm just going to double that up right here, right now. I am giving myself a little bit of flexibility. I don't love rostering 2 quarterbacks in a 1 quarterback format, but you might play in a league where your league mates hoard quarterbacks or they hoard tight ends, and the waiver wire is always razor thin unnecessarily. So you may need to go ahead and just be proactive and protect yourself and just have 2 quarterbacks rostered because everybody else is doing it. Not that I'm a proponent of don't follow the crowd, but this is a situation where if it's a bye week, or if Drake May gets hurt and every other team in my league is rostering 2 quarterbacks and some big brain person is rostering 3, I might be shit out of luck if I have to, bye week fill in or injury or whatever have you, if my best option is a middling QB2. So I am going to protect myself in this particular instance with another guy who I think has top 8 upside in Justin Fields. Konami code with all of the rushing. Okay, back to Steven. I would have a couple of follow-up questions here for you. Who do you already have on your team? It's a slow draft, so I think we got time, right? I got to imagine we have at least like an hour here or so to make the call. Who else is on your team? What's the score and what's the scoring? Obviously that doesn't matter as much because these are all wide receivers, but I want to know, do you have wide receiver already filled out? Could you use a running back? I know these are the names that you presented to me, but I am, I'm Dr. Strange. I like to look at 14 million scenarios and then give you my favorite one of all of them. I like Ridley as a guy to get a wide receiver 1 target share from better quarterback play than what he received last year. I like Egbuka because his role is probably going to be prominent for at least the first month of the season. No Chris Godwin until probably October. No Jalen McMillan until at least the halfway point of the season. Cade Otton is going to miss time. So Egbuka is super enticing. I'd be curious to know who you already have on your team. What do we got? We got 3 picks left. So I could pick a kicker, a defense, and then my favorite wide receiver or running back. So, Steven, I would say if you can give me like a little extra information, who's already on your team, I'll take a shot on Woody Marks. Woody Marks makes a lot of sense down here. Joe Mixon might not play in 2025. That was another thing in news and notes that I didn't get to. Joe Mixon straight up might miss the season. That is not a guarantee. That's not a certainty. But his long-term outlook is foggy at best after Nick Caserio's comments, the general manager of the Houston Texans, yesterday. Nick Chubb is older now at this point of his career. Has suffered multiple major injuries. Now is on a new team, and the vibes haven't been great. I'll take a Woody Marks here. Happy to end up with that. I don't want Tajay Spears, who was the next pick. Tajay Spears, long laundry list of injuries up to this point in his career, unfortunately. The latest one is a high ankle sprain that already put him on injured reserve. He's going to miss the first 4 weeks of the season. Tajay Spears is not draftable. Damn, Ollie Gordon is here. I'll pass on Ollie Gordon because I don't have Devon Achane. If this were best ball, I would want to take him to maximize the potential for upside, but I guess I need a kicker and I guess I need a defense. There's so many good names that I like here. I am like a full proponent at this point of like scrap kicker, scrap defense, and let's just play like 12 starting roster spots of like flex positions. There's so many guys here that I like. So many interesting names with like plenty of opportunity down here. Sure, I'll take a kicker because I can stream a defense later. I'll take AE. I guess in a vacuum, Steven, I would rank these names as, I would say Ridley first, and I drafted Ridley in this mock. So I can certainly vouch for, I'm a big fan of Ridley this year, just because he's guaranteed a wide receiver 1 target share, and he should almost certainly get better quarterback play than what he got in 2024. Well, the Packers are still on the board, and they just traded for Micah Parsons. So, yeah, screw it. I'll take a shot on them. All right, and that is the draft. I can talk a little bit about this draft. Obviously, there were a lot of computers here, so there's only so much that I can really, truly analyze. But if anybody wants to talk shop on the draft, what I did, what Crumply Heads did, if any of the picks stand out to you, if there's any one specific thing you'd like me to talk about from this draft, I am happy to do so. But I will finish off my thoughts on finish up on Steven's question, which was a super and very much appreciated. I would rank them as Ridley, then Igbuka, and then I think I would go Pearsall over Adunze, just because and I know that's a bit of a leap of faith. But I think I would go Pearsall over Adunze. Pearsall showed quite well at the end of the season last year. He was starting to round into form finally. He had such a weird year last year because he got shot in the offseason last year, which wiped out wiped out so much, for his rookie campaign. Now, Brandon Ayuk basically doesn't have a timeline to return. Maybe week 6, maybe week 7, who knows? Debo is in Washington. Jawan Jennings is on the sidelines nursing a calf injury / looking for a contract extension. It's Christian McCaffrey, George Kittle, and then Ricky Pearsall. They just signed Sky Moore, who got released by the Chiefs, and Marquez Valdez-Scantling, who got released by who? The Saints or the Seahawks or the Packers? Where the hell was MVS? I don't even know. The point is, the 49ers wide receiver depth chart is so razor thin right now. It's so razor thin that I would put Pearsall third from this group. I would go Ridley, Igbuka, Pearsall, and then Adunze, and then I would probably go Golden for the upside, and then I would rank Debo last. Debo's got a lot of proof after last year, and I know it sounds crazy to rank Debo like last of these names, these options, but Terry McLaurin is officially back in the mix for Washington. Debo might get some he might still have his wide back role a little bit, especially after the trade of Brian Robinson, but he is older. He does have a slew of injuries as far as his injury history, and it's a new team, new scheme. We'll see how that all shakes out and works for him. So I would say I would go Ridley first, same team, new quarterback, should be better quarterback play, should get a wide receiver 1 target share. I like Ridley of this group quite a bit. Then I would go Igbokwe. Could be a volume machine in the beginning of the season, at least in the beginning of the season, then has a chance to carry that momentum throughout most, if not all, of the season. Then I would go Pearsall. Then I would go Odunze. Then I would go Golden. Then I would go Debo, in that order. And you have Nico and Pickens so far. That's pretty good. That's a good collection of wide receivers that you are putting together. Finishing it off with Ridley would be quite nice. And Nico and Ridley are going to play each other twice a year because they play in the same division. That's same game correlation that you can kind of bank on for those 2 weeks. Do they play each other in the playoffs, in the fantasy playoffs? Basically, what I mean by that is if Nico's playing well, that increases the chances that Ridley has to produce on the other side for the Titans, and vice versa. If Ridley is scoring well in that game, that means the Texans need to throw the ball to Nico Collins and keep pace in that matchup. If they play each other, this is moving a little slow. Let me check on my phone. I just want to look at what the Titans and/or Texans schedule is specifically in the fantasy playoffs is when it's like most exciting, most enticing. Do Houston and Tennessee play each other at any point between weeks 15 and 17? Yeah, they don't. They do not. That's okay. That's not a deal breaker. That would have just been a bonus. That would have been gravy. My answer here is Ridley would be first for me. Ridley, or if Ridley is there when you pick, that would be my selection. If Ridley is gone, then I would go Igbokwe and just ride the potential for he's got such a good chance to get off to such a strong start. No Godwin, no McMillan, no Otten for week 1 for Tampa Bay. Igbokwe's got a chance to get off to such a good start and ride that wave, that momentum throughout most of the season. I'll take Igbokwe second. I would go Ridley, then Igbokwe in that order. But let me know if you need anything else, Steven. Appreciate the supers. Very kind of you. Thanks for your patience as I work through the end of that mock draft. And hopefully it can help out a little bit here. But let me know if you need anything else. Let's see. I got to these questions. My thoughts on Tet McMillan. I do not think this is another Marvin Harrison Jr. situation, and here's why. Tet is currently probably 35 to 40 picks cheaper than Marvin Harrison was last year. Marvin Harrison was a high second round pick in redraft leagues last year. The hype was through the roof, the expectations were through the roof, and he ultimately fell short. Probably because we as collectively as a consensus, we had too high expectations for a rookie. He should have never been going that high. I know that's easy to say now, but it didn't materialize. It didn't work out. He hadn't proven anything to that point. And as a rookie wide receiver in a questionable offense, Kyler is fun, but he's not a great quarterback, respectfully. We should have curtailed expectations a little bit, but we didn't. Marvin Harrison Jr. was a top 15 pick last year. Tet has an ADP of the 4th or 5th round. He was a 6th round pick in this draft. In this mock draft, he was a 6th round pick. It's different. It's different this year. Tet's cost is a lot more palatable than Marvin Harrison Jr.'s was last year. If we were drafting Marvin Harrison Jr. last year, where we're drafting Tet this year, we would have been happy with Marvin Harrison's season. We would have been happy with it. 800 yards and 8 touchdowns from a rookie that you draft in the 5th round. We'd be over the moon about that. But the expectations didn't meet the production, and therefore Marv disappointed. I do not think it is an apples-to-apples comparison. I think we are getting a better value in Tet this year. We're maybe getting a little bit of fatigue on rookie wide receivers based on what happened to Marvin Harrison last year, and people are are therefore fading Tet a little bit. I am perfectly fine drafting Tet at cost or around cost. If you like him and you want to take him a few spots above ADP, that's fine. If he falls a few spots behind ADP, take him. Take your shot. And the team just traded away Adam Thielen. They don't play the same role. Tet's going to be the X receiver. Thielen was the slot receiver, but that's still one less veteran wide receiver in the room taking potential targets away. I do not think they're the same, and I mean that in a nice way for Tet. I am perfectly fine with drafting Tet because we don't have to draft him at the top of the second round like we did last year with Marvin Harrison. So yeah, I'm fine. I'm fine with Tet. I'm fine with Tet at cost. Let's see. Continuing to move through the chat. I could potentially fire up one more mock. If I can get if a few more people are interested, I'm happy to. If a couple people are interested, I'm happy to do one more mock. I'm happy to set that up. Let's see. But as always, AMA, if anybody has any questions, fantasy related, happy to take them. Happy to talk shop on whatever it is that is on your mind. Rank these players in Dynasty. Tet, Henderson, Ekbuka, Harvey. No PPR, standard scoring. So, Tet was the 8th overall pick in the draft. Ekbuka was a first-round pick. He was in that 19 or 20 range. Henderson was a high second-round pick. Harvey was a third-round pick. The vibes are insanely good right now for Henderson and Ekbuka. I think the vibes are solid. I think they're pretty good for Tet. And then I think the vibes on Harvey they're a little unknown. Right? They're a little unknown. We don't know how much Dobbins is going to factor in. And for how long he's going to have a role. I guess based on that, since it's non-PPR, I would probably say, we're expecting Henderson to be a pass-catching running back. But he's still going to get, obviously, he's going to get carries as well. They're going to manufacture touches any way they can to get Henderson the ball. I would rank Henderson probably first, then Tet, then Ekbuka, then Harvey. Generally, I like to follow the draft capital. But running backs can naturally skew how much that matters if they end up being the primary 1A at the very least for their team's offense. And that seems to be what's developing here in New England with Travion Henderson. I think he is pushing Ramondre Stevenson out the door. I think he's going to make I've loved Antonio Gibson for years, but I feel like he's about to make Antonio Gibson completely irrelevant because they play very similar roles. Henderson is shaping up to be the 1A for this Patriots backfield. Like I'm getting like Aaron Jones vibes. Like he's the primary 1A for the Packers. Maybe he doesn't ever take on a bell cow workload, but he's going to be their best player, the guy who does get the most snaps and touches out of the backfield. Maybe it's at a 65% clip, maybe a 70% clip on a good week, but he's going to share the backfield with somebody most of the time in a committee that skews in Henderson's favor. I think that is enough, especially in non-PPR scoring, to put Henderson first. Then the two wide receivers drafted in the first round, Tet and then Ekbuka. And then I would put Harvey last. Harvey is sharing the backfield with a more competent veteran, I think, in J.K. Dobbins than Henderson is. And Harvey doesn't have the draft capital as good as these other guys. Henderson doesn't have the competition that Harvey does. That being said, Dobbins does have an extensive injury history and probably doesn't have the same juice and burst that he once did. So, there's a path there for Harvey to ascend sooner than later, but I would still have to put him fourth of this group. Rankings for tight ends and quarterbacks in later rounds. I do not have a specific list of rankings, but I will tell you some names that I'm quite bullish on at the position. That can be had like late in drafts. The ones that stand out to me are, just based on ADP. So like, I'll look at this. Let's look at this mock draft. So that would pretty much be like late quarterbacks and tight ends for me is anybody like round 10 and later. Anybody round 10 and later, that's officially the discount pile. That's the value that you're looking for at the onesie positions, right? Quarterback and tight end. Dak Prescott is a great one. Dak Prescott's a great quarterback target in one quarterback leagues because you can get him in the 10th round and he could absolutely lead the league in passing yards. He's not probably going to run as much as he used to earlier in his career, but this is the range where if I think there is a quarterback who is a threat or a candidate to lead the league in passing yards, I'm happy to take him here. Dak fits that bill. I just talked about it a little bit earlier. The Cowboys are probably not going to run the ball very well this year. Right? I'm burying the lead a little bit. I'll get to the defense in a second. But the Cowboys on offense are probably going to struggle running the football. Their offensive line is not as good as it used to be, and the backfield options are not anything, I don't think, that is scaring opposing defensive coordinators. Javonte Williams had a once promising career. It's been derailed by injuries. Miles Sanders has not been the same since he left the Eagles. Jaden Blue is a fifth-round rookie. He's interesting. Can he emerge and be, a viable flex play with RB2 upside week over week? We'll see. They might struggle running the ball. And again, the offensive line isn't that good. And then on top of that, the Cowboys defense might be bad. They might be bad. They just traded Micah Parsons. There's no replacing Micah Parsons. I don't care what you get in a return. When you trade Micah Parsons, you lose the deal. The Cowboys lost this trade with the Green Bay Packers. They lost this trade. I know they got Kenny Clark. How old is Kenny Clark? I feel like he's been around for a while. He's 29. He'll be 30 when the season starts. So he's not like a fossil, but he's not a young pup. He's not a spring chicken. They got 2 first-round picks. That'll help them maybe starting next year. It's not going to help them this year. They basically, for the 2025 season alone, they swapped Micah Parsons with Kenny Clark. That is a massive downgrade. No disrespect to Kenny Clark. And then Overshone is coming back from injuries. Trayvon Diggs had an injury-riddled campaign last year. Deron Bland was not the same after having a really good 2023. There are pieces on this defense, but they have some questions to answer, and now their best player for the past half-decade is no longer on the team. They are going to have to air it out. They're going to be in a million shootouts this year, the Dallas Cowboys are. So I love Dak as a quarterback target. I like Purdy too. Now, his core of weapons is hurting a little bit right now, right? Brandon Ayuk is still slowly recovering from a major injury that he suffered last year. Jawan Jennings has not been practicing. Calf injury, wants a contract negotiation, rumors of a trade demand earlier in the offseason, which the 49ers are not going to do. They just plucked Sky Moore and Marquez Valdez-Scantling off the top of the trash heap. And they may need to use those guys week 1. Like, it's dire straits for the 49ers wide receivers. That being said, they are more healthy now, obviously, than they were, I think, at any point last year. And Brock Purdy was pretty good in a bad situation in 2024. Now he gets Christian McCaffrey back. He still has George Kittle. Pieces along the offensive line is still there. Trent Williams, they're older, but they're still there. Still reliable. Still expect them to deliver and perform at a high level. Purdy is pretty good. He's pretty good. And he's got good weapons to throw the ball to when everybody's healthy. McCaffrey, Kittle, Pearsall. And then in the second half of the season, presumably if Jawan Jennings and Brandon Ayuk can turn a corner, that's more in-season help that the 49ers will eventually receive. So I think Purdy's a solid pick, although I wouldn't take him over Dak. These two guys that I drafted in this mock draft, Drake May, Justin Fields, I think these are great options, both with high rushing upside, especially Fields. And May has all of the, all the good vibes right now. I think the coaching staff is excited about him. The fantasy industry is over the moon about the prospects of a good Drake May season. He was pretty solid last year in a bad environment. Not a good coaching staff, not a good offense, not a good offensive line, and not good skill position guys. They addressed all of that this year. They brought in Mike Vrabel to stabilize the coaching staff. They drafted oh my God, who's the offensive tackle that they drafted 4th overall? I'm blanking on his name. This is going to bother me. Will Campbell. Thank you. Holy hell. That's going to make their offensive line better. And then obviously they signed Stephon Diggs in free agency. They drafted Travion Henderson. They have still Demario Douglas and Hunter Henry. They drafted Kyle Williams. They surrounded May with more talent. And he will run. Drake May is going to run. Love May as an option late. Love Justin Fields as an option late. I want to get on board with guys like Caleb Williams and Trevor Lawrence and J.J. McCarthy. But I don't know that I feel good about them as my QB1 in one quarterback leagues. I want to believe in all three of those guys. Lawrence has so far failed to prove if he is, in fact, a team's franchise quarterback through this part of his career thus far. Williams had an up and down season last year. Vibes are good, I think, with Ben Johnson and an expected improved play calling. We'll see if Williams can help put it together. And then McCarthy, we just haven't seen him yet, right? He missed his rookie year due to injury. And, he's going to be without Jordan Addison to start the season. Justin Jefferson is nursing what is hopefully a minor hamstring injury, but we don't know how minor it is. So he's going to have to navigate that early on in the year. I think there's a couple warts there with those guys where it's hard to fully endorse them, but they're interesting. Jordan Love is also another good one. Going super late, had high expectations last year. He got hurt early, right? He got hurt week 1, and the Packers' season on offense was kind of like up and down all season long after that took place. So Love never really got the opportunity from the jump that we were all expecting and presuming him to get because he got hurt week 1. Now he's all the way down to like an 11th, 12th round pick, maybe 12th, 13th round pick. You can have him for free. Still Jaden Reed. They still have Tucker Kraft. They added Matthew Golden. They still have Romeo Doubs. There are some meh parts of the offense. Christian Watson's going to miss most of the season with an injury. Dontavian Wicks, I think, is falling flat as far as, previous expectations that we had for a guy like him. They drafted a couple. Savion Williams, I mean, Luke Musgrave, whatever. I mean, there's some options in this offense, and obviously Josh Jacobs is a viable pass catcher out of the backfield, and Love can run. I mean, he's not going to run for 800 or 900 rushing yards, but he can run. So Love is a good pick. I would say Dak, Fields, May, Jordan Love are the quarterbacks that I quite like. And then at tight end, I'll go right back to Dallas. Jake Ferguson, again, the Cowboys are going to be in a million shootouts. Jake Ferguson also got paid this offseason. He got a contract extension from the team. I always love finding guys that get commitments from a team. No disrespect to Jake Ferguson. The Cowboys had money for Jake Ferguson, but not Micah Parsons. That should tell you what's a little something about maybe how they feel about Jake Ferguson. I would tell you could punt quarterback and tight end and take the Cowboys stack. Take Dak in round 10. Take Ferg in round 11. And there you go. That might be all you need to get through the first, 8 weeks of the season until their bye week, whatever it is. I think the Cowboys are going to be in a lot of shootouts this year. I think Dak is a good late-round quarterback target. I think Jake Ferguson is a great late-round tight end target. His season never got off the ground last year because Dak got injured. I think he was injured at the start of the season, and then Dak got injured later in the year. There wasn't a ton of overlap, and the Cowboy season went in the tank. It just fell apart really quickly, really early. Ferguson is a good late round dart throw at tight end. It's gonna hurt. It's gonna feel icky. It's gonna feel gross. But Dalton Kincaid is not a bad dart throw. Maybe not in the 11th. Maybe I would hope that he falls to like the 12th round or the 13th round. If Dalton Kincaid goes in the 11th round and Jake Ferguson is still on the board, and scoop up Ferguson immediately, I would rank Ferguson ahead of Dalton Kincaid. And I know Dalton Kincaid feels gross after the season that he had last year. However, his same opportunity is still there. The Bills didn't really add anything of significance, no disrespect to Josh Palmer, to their wide receiver room since last year. And now Kincaid is healthy. He was dealing with injuries last year. They can absolutely use him. They absolutely could use a step forward by Dalton Kincaid. Maybe the industry was a year early on him. Maybe we got too hyped, too excited about a young tight end a little too early, a year too early. And now his ADP is dirt cheap. Kincaid is a perfectly fine guy to try to target in the 11th round. Zach Ertz, Hunter Henry, guys down here. Maybe not as much Hunter Henry, but Zach Ertz. He is Jaden Daniels' security blanket, man. He's going to roll out of bed and catch 8 touchdowns this year. Now, it's fair to be, does somebody coming in like Debo impact Ertz's usage? Yeah, maybe a little bit. Maybe a little bit. But Debo plays a unique role. He may not always be lining up to take some type of short crossing route that Ertz is maybe more likely to take. Or sit down in the zone and find that little bubble. Zach Ertz is so good at that. He's so good at finding those little holes in the defense and sitting down and he will catch the football. He may not break a tackle, but he will find an opening. He will find a soft spot in the defense and he will catch the ball. If I get 5 catches for 25 yards and a touchdown from my tight end, I will be quite happy with that. Zach Ertz can give you that. Zach Ertz can give you that. So quarterbacks that I like late, Dak Prescott, Jordan Love, Justin Fields, Drake May. Honorable mentions are Caleb Williams, Trevor Lawrence, and JJ McCarthy, but I can't endorse those 3 as much as the other guys. Dak, Fields, May, Love. Any one of those guys is fine as a late round dart throw at quarterback. And then at tight end, Ferguson, Ertz. I know it feels gross, but Dalton Kincaid also a viable option. I'll slice up that part of the live stream. I can maybe cut up a video or two and have it posted tomorrow, like late round quarterbacks that I like, late round tight ends that I like. I can slice that up and put that out there. And then, of course, I will timestamp this live stream for anybody who is catching it late, joining it late, so you know the different portions of the live stream and what it is exactly that I am discussing at that particular moment. And then, do I expect a bounce back year for Diggs and ETN? I like Diggs at cost quite a bit. Yes, he's a little bit risky. He did suffer the torn ACL just last year, but it sounds like he's making good progress on his recovery. It sounds like there's a good chance he's going to be available for week 1. Maybe we don't start Stephon Diggs week 1. Maybe we see how things play out. But I am perfectly fine taking a shot on Diggs in the 6th or 7th round. He is going to soak up a wide receiver 1 target share from an ascending quarterback in Drake May if he's healthy. I quite like Diggs at cost. ETN, I'm not as excited about. The vibes don't feel great. This feels like we're headed to a full-blown committee and everybody's going to have a role. ETN's going to have a role. Hank Bigsby's going to have a role. Vishal Tootin might have a role. Maybe not week 1, but I would think by midseason it's possible he has a role. This is shaping up to be a gross committee. I would rather have Tank Bigsby a lot cheaper than ETN, who I'm not confident will retain a consistent workload week over week to warrant considering starting at running back. I think Bigsby proved he's a solid runner last year. ETN is an inefficient runner. The team may not want to keep giving him carries, giving him too many handoffs in the backfield if he's going to keep slamming it up for 3.5, 3.7 yards per carry. That's not going to get it done at the NFL level. I don't care if you're a former first-round pick. You will get replaced if you are not efficiently running the football. Bigsby did that at a higher clip, at a better rate than Travis Etienne did last year. And then on top of that, they added Vishal Tootin and LaQuint Allen in the draft. I'm not as high on Travis Etienne. I'm not as bullish on a bounce back for ETN. Diggs, yes, I can get in on Stephon Diggs at cost at ADP. I am not going in on Travis Etienne at cost. I'm too worried about his role and what that may look like. Hell, I'm not convinced that he doesn't eventually still get traded. If Bigsby got traded, okay, fine, wheels up on ETN, even though they play different roles. But I don't think that's going to happen. Bigsby offers them a much more efficient first and second down runner than ETN does. And I know ETN is a former first round pick. I know he, a couple of years ago, had like an RB3 overall season. 2 years might not sound like that much time, but in running back years, 2 years is a lot of time. Maybe he was banged up last year, ETN. Maybe he had injuries that he was dealing with. Maybe he's healthy now this year, and that'll help him. That'll fix his prospects for weekly production. But, it's a new coaching staff. We're now 2 coaching staffs removed from who drafted Travis Etienne. So there's not necessarily like that level of commitment for him from this coaching staff than if it was still the same staff that had drafted him to begin with. We're 2 staffs removed from that now. And then this new coaching staff added their own 2 running backs in the draft, in Tootin and Allen. So I'm not as bullish on Travis Etienne. I do not have many shares of him this year. I am not actively pursuing him. If anything, I'd rather skip him, and I'll take Tank Bigsby 2.5, 3 rounds later. Remember, just a friendly reminder, if you are playing best ball, if you have any best ball slow drafts, specifically on Underdog Fantasy, they reduced the pick timer today from 4 hours to 1 hour. The season is getting close. That means that Underdog needs these damn drafts to finish and finish quickly. They need to wrap them up. So keep an eye on your slow drafts if you have them in your queue. The slow draft timer is now down to 1 hour. I think I'm at the end of the chat. I think I got all of the questions that I received. If I did not, you can feel free to repost them. You can hit me up if you have a question in the form of a comment on this live stream or any video and stream on the channel. I will make sure to timestamp this live stream. I will make sure to I will make sure to slice up the section where I talked about some late round quarterback and tight end targets. That might be a helpful little easily digestible piece that I can put out tomorrow. I know there was one or two folks who said they'd be interested in doing another mock draft, but I don't see a ton of interest in me running it back. So I'll hang on here for another minute or so. If there's 3 or 4 people who want to do a mock draft, I am happy to set that up. But if not, and if there aren't any other questions, I may go ahead and shut this down. But I can stick around for another minute or so in case there is interest in a mock. I could put another mock together if there's interest. Let's see. Check my best balls because again the slow draft pick timer has been reduced because the season is close. We are a month away. We are a week away. What am I saying? If I woke up today and I was a month away from the season, I'd be so sad. But that's not the case. We're just a week away. And then again, I will be back. I will be back next week. Tuesday, 6 p.m. Eastern. Oh, I'm sorry. I will not be live on Tuesday. That is my big draft. My big draft takes place that evening. I will not be available for a stream on Tuesday. I will make sure, though, to provide some additional content between now and next Thursday to help get you guys through any final drafts, any final questions that you may have before the season officially kicks off. And then I will go into my full slate of live stream cadences. Tuesday, waivers. Thursday will be the Thursday Night Football preview and just, latest from around the league and what the feeling is going into that weekend. And then Saturdays and Sundays will be start, sit, help. Saturdays will be, I believe I do 5 p.m. Eastern on Saturdays, and then I do 11 a.m. Eastern on Sundays. So bring your start, sit questions then. Again, during the season, during live streams in general, especially start sit live streams, I would encourage you to consider looking at my membership options for the channel. I don't ask for much, but if you do look into memberships, one of the perks that comes with being a member is you'll get your username shouted out, and I will answer your questions and comments in priority order ahead of the general public. So you will get a faster response rate from me if you do, in fact, choose to go the membership route with this channel. Details are in the first link in the description of this live stream and all streams on the channel. If you have more questions, feel free to hit me up. You can do that in the form of a comment on any video or live stream, or you can hit me up in Discord. That is also an evergreen invite for anybody who is interested in joining. Second link in the description of this live stream and all videos and streams on the channel. But I'm very excited. I hope you guys are too. The season is very close. We are about literal 1 week's time from Eagles Cowboys, from kickoff. So whatever I can do to help you guys between now and then. If you've had your draft, if you're looking at maybe some moves to make between now and the beginning of the season, you can ask a question. Or if your draft hasn't taken place yet, hit me in Discord, ask a question on a video or stream on the channel, and I will get to it as I can. Yeah. And then that's fair. Be wary of league mates doing weird stuff, right? Because they will do whatever it is that they want to do. Some people just ignore ADP, they ignore traditional draft strategy, and they just do whatever the hell they feel like. They're like, this is what I want. This is the guy that I want at this spot. I don't care what his cost is. I'm not risking anything. I'm just going to take him. I admire it in a way because it's like you're throwing all of the math and all of that out the window, and you're just going to get your guys. Don't let it rattle you. If anything else, always come into your draft. Always be prepared to pivot. You may have a plan of attack, and nothing might materialize at each pick the way you thought it would go. Just be ready to be nimble. Be ready to be fluid. Be ready to take a player at a position at a spot where maybe you were thinking about taking a different position. Just remember to look ahead down the board. Look at, your scoring matters, your starting lineup matters, and then who do you think is going to be available to you at your next pick? That will help you make your pick that is happening in real time, at the present time. You stay on top of that, it won't matter what your other league mates are doing. Now I got to make another best ball pick because I have the turn, and I don't even know who I want here. But that's my problem, not your guys' problem. Okay. Let's see. I will take this to closer to the top of the hour. I'm happy to hang if there's anybody that has anything else that they want to discuss. If you've got any questions about your draft, a player, a strategy, whatever it is that may be top of mind, feel free to bring it up. I'm happy to talk shop because I imagine there are quite a few drafts still taking place this weekend. I have a draft. I've got multiple drafts coming up. I've got a draft on Sunday. I've got a draft on Tuesday. I think I've got another online draft on Monday or Tuesday. I do a lot of drafts. I do a lot of leagues. I don't have a problem. But I do have a solution, and it's just to win all these leagues. And that's what I'm here to hopefully do, is help you win yours as well. All right, so the guys that are available to me at pick 73 in this best ball are like Jordan Addison, which is a tough pill to swallow, missing the first 3 games of the season. Jacoby Myers requested a trade, so I was very eager to press the button to draft Jacoby Myers this offseason, but now it's like, what the hell is his role going to be, and what, will he even be on the Raiders? I could take David Montgomery. I've been kind of lukewarm on Montgomery this year. I think David Montgomery is a good player, but I really think this is the year that Jahmyr Gibbs takes off. I don't want Jawan Jennings. He is he's too easy of a fade for me, respectfully. Aaron Jones is here, and I could use a running back. It would come down to either Aaron Jones or David Montgomery. And then that comes down to, like, how much do you believe Jordan Mason is going to be the guy in Minnesota over Aaron Jones? I'm still willing to bank on Aaron Jones, but I'm happy to draft both Minnesota running backs this year. I don't have a problem with either one. Aaron Jones, I think, is the better player, even in his older age. And then Jordan Mason, if he's the short yardage goal line guy, he might be a little frustrating to own, but he would be in a good insurance policy for Aaron Jones. If anything happens to Jones, Mason potentially skyrockets to RB1 upside, not overall, but just over the course of any given week, depending on the matchup and the situation. I guess I should take it's between David Montgomery and Aaron Jones. I have a lot of I have more Aaron Jones than I have David Montgomery shares. I don't have too many David Montgomery shares this year. I really think this is the year that Jahmyr Gibbs kind of takes off. He's already, he was friggin' RB1 overall last year, handling a split backfield. That just goes to show you how freaking awesome Jahmyr Gibbs is. I think there's room for him to grow even more. And I think it might come at the expense of David Montgomery. And then, of course, another strategy that makes a lot of sense in best ball is to look at the playoff weeks and look at the playoff matchups, and you're looking for playoff week correlation. You can sort of do this in redraft, but I wouldn't put a whole heck of a lot of emphasis on it, where you try to find, if you draft one player, if there's another player around your next pick who that player is playing in the fantasy playoffs, there could be some same game correlation that you could chase there, but it's not necessary. I'll take a shot on. I actually, you know what? I'll take a shot on Aaron Jones in the 7th round, because I just got done talking about how, Jordan Addison suspended for 3 games. Justin Jefferson dealing with a hamstring injury. Hopefully it's minor. Hopefully it's not too bad. But he has missed a decent amount of practice time this offseason, and soft tissue injuries can and often do, I don't always, but they often do reoccur during the season. So even though Justin Jefferson has returned to practice, I don't know that he's out of the woods from this soft tissue injury in the long haul. So that's a question mark. They just traded for Adam Thielen, the Vikings did, who Adam Thielen is awesome. He's had a great NFL career, but he's 57 years old. How much more does he have left in the tank? And then is he going to regularly play over like a Jalen Naylor, who at least is, who is younger, fresher legs, has been there for a couple of years now. Not that Thielen isn't familiar with Minnesota, but he is a little bit older now at this point. So the Vikings are, and then they have TJ Hawkinson, who I guess is going to handle as much work as he can catching the ball from a young quarterback. That's the tight end, by the way. Kittle or Hawkinson, those are the tight ends that if you splurge a little bit, you could take Bowers, who's a stud. You could take McBride, who's a stud. But I think you're getting pretty good bang for your buck with both Kittle and Hawkinson, given the state of the other skill position players around them on their respective offenses. A lot of injuries on the 49ers, good for Kittle. A lot of injuries on the Vikings, good for Hawkinson. But anyway, Aaron Jones might be a pass-catching beneficiary as well from the current situation with the Minnesota Vikings. So I'm going to take Aaron Jones over guys like David Montgomery and Jordan Addison and Jacoby Myers in this best ball draft. Happy to end up with Aaron Jones there. Who do you pick first? Well, we got to see who's going to be there. And it's full PPR. So do you start again? As much context as possible. Do you start 3 wide receivers, or do you only start 2 wide receivers? If you only start 2 wide receivers, then I'm going to tell you, even in full PPR scoring, opt to get a running back. Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Ashton Genty. If you start 3 wide receivers, then I want a wide receiver probably. Nico Collins, Malik Neighbors, Puka. I don't know if Puka is going to fall to the 9th pick, especially in full PPR. But if he's there, you take Puka. You take Nico. Amon-Ra St. Brown is fine. He's kind of boring, but he's been the wide receiver 3 back-to-back seasons. So sometimes boring is really good. Yeah, it depends. It depends on who's there. Again, It depends on who's there. It depends on who is your starting lineup and what makes up your starting lineup. 3 starting wide receivers versus 2 starting wide receivers. And then who do you think is going to be available at your next pick? If the guy that's going to be available at your next pick that you think is going to be there based on ADP is a wide receiver, then take a running back. If you think the best player at the second round ADP is a running back, then maybe take a wide receiver. It all depends. There's a lot of different variables. For me, it's not just, oh, who should I take? It has everything to do with, okay, it's full PPR scoring. We got that. But how many wide receivers are in your starting lineup? And who do you think is going to be available to you in the second round? And maybe even the third round, if you're able to look down the board that quickly, that far, and get an idea or get a gauge on who might be there. So, yeah. You start 3 wide receivers, I would take Nico. Or Amon-Ra. Or Malik Neighbors. Or Puka. If you only start 2 wide receivers, then I would take McCaffrey. Or Ashton Genty. Or Derrick Henry. Henry might be a little bit tougher of a pill to swallow in full PPR scoring because he doesn't really catch the ball, but he will still run for 12 to 15 touchdowns. In that offense, now that Derrick Henry is a Baltimore Raven, and I know when I say now, I know he was last year too, but yeah, he used to be a little bit more concerning on the Titans in full PPR scoring, maybe because the Titans were never that good on offense around him. This Ravens offense is a lethal rushing attack, spearheaded by Lamar and Derrick Henry. I don't care in full PPR. If Derrick Henry's there in the second round, I am more than happy to take him. So it depends. It depends on who's there. It depends on who's available. And what your starting lineup looks like as far as roster makeup and who you think is going to be there at your second pick and maybe your third pick. But best of luck with the draft. Hopefully that goes well. Again, look down the board. Take the time, a couple picks before your pick, eyeball the names that you like, and then look down the board to where your next pick is going to be and look at the names that you expect to be there. And if there's a wide receiver that you spot, then maybe take a running back. And if there's a running back you like in the next round, then take a wide receiver now. It's all, you're being proactively reactive, if that makes sense. You are going out of your way to look down the board, to look at other selections that you're going to have later and look at the names and identify the names that you like at those spots that you expect to be there. And then from there, you make your current selection. That makes sense. Okay, we are at the end of the chat. So I think I'm going to wrap it here. But if you are going through a draft right now, obviously best of luck. Feel free to hit me up if you have you can leave a question in the form of a comment on this live stream. Oh, you grabbed the 2 running backs. Okay. So make a point to grab a couple wide receivers in rounds 3 and 4. Off the top of my head, Mike Evans, Jameson Williams. Let's see. If it's probably the 3-4 turn. Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams. Hell, George Kittle. You could take George Kittle. If you don't like the wide receivers there, you can get a stud tight end. Yeah, like a Mike Evans, Marvin Harrison, Devontae Adams. Those could be good wide receivers. Yeah. I mean, you kind of, since you went running back, there's going to be a little bit more pressure for you to get wide receivers later. So I would not plan to draft unless you get a great value, and don't be afraid to take good value when it presents itself. I would try to not draft another running back until maybe rounds like 6, 7, or 8. Now, obviously, if you're at the 3-4 turn and either Amari Hampton or James Cook is there, or Alvin Kamara is there, and you feel good about those guys, then sure, take them. But now you probably want to get at least one wide receiver, if not two, or a wide receiver and a tight end like George Kittle. So, and then, rounds 5 and 6, wide receiver. Rounds 7 and 8, wide receiver, maybe another running back. It depends on who's there. It depends on who you like. Those guys aren't going to be available in the 3rd or 4th round. But you can if they were, those guys are going to be they're going to be all scooped. They're going to be all scooped. Yeah, I mean, yeah, wide receiver depth at like from moving forward will be pertinent. That's the move that you want to go. If there's good running back depth at the 3-4 turn, Amari Hampton, I doubt he falls that far, but if he did, okay, fine, I'll make an exception. But you want to hammer wide receiver from here on out if you took running backs with your first 2 picks. Or get George Kittle early. And if you don't get George Kittle, then maybe just wait until the end of the draft to get a good value at tight end, like a Jake Ferguson, a Tucker Kraft, Tyler Warren, any one of those guys are viable. All right. I think that will do it for me. You will hear from me throughout the week. I will be back on the mic next Thursday ahead of kickoff, taking questions, talking shop, and in general, just celebrating the return of football. But that will do it for me tonight. Again, best of luck in any drafts that are taking place today or over the course of the weekend. You can hit me up in the form of questions, with questions in the form of a comment on this live stream or any videos and streams on the channel. Appreciate everybody coming in and hanging out today. Have a great weekend. Best of luck. Enjoy college football if that's your thing. First big week 1 slate is this weekend. Very exciting. Football is officially back. Thanks, everybody. I will see you guys on Thursday ahead of Eagles versus Cowboys. Thanks, everyone.